has contacted us in spite of all the letters, in spite of visiting INEC. Recall also that on the 30th of March or so, we held a peaceful demonstration at the INEC office where we entreated them to do the needful. Up to this moment, nothing has happened. At this point, we are a law-abiding group of, elect officers. What are we to do?
Because
we have to go back to the court.
Mr. Ofia,
so let the courts let the full course of the law.
Mr. Ofia, one will be wondering that, studying the Supreme Court judgment, it wasn't stated in that judgment, as much as I know, that you and some of your colleagues should be a party to the seats or benefit from the judgment. The judgment clearly stated that Mr. Ejike Ogwebego is being recognized as a rightful chairman of the PDP in Anambra State.
Thank you. I really like this question because there is this confusion which is really a ploy by people to distort what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court never said what these people are trying to interject into the ruling. What they said is that they are setting aside the ruling of the Court of Appeal and they are upholding the decision of the Federal High Court. Now, what they are saying is that when the Federal High Court gave its judgment, INEC obeyed and published our names. When the Court of Appeal set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court, INEC obeyed. And immediately the Court of Appeal did that. We filed a stay of execution and told INEC not to remove our names. They said, no, go and appeal to the Supreme Court. Immediately you get judgment, we are going to restore. We believed in the rule of law and went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court agreed with us, set aside the judgment of the appeals court and upheld that of the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court was very clear to say that the judgment that INEC has to obey is the order of the Federal High Court. Order of the Federal High Court. There is no confusion here.
Upholding the judgment of the Federal...
INEC...
sorry, I didn't see in any of the judgment there where the Federal High Court has said in the elections held, the Ogwebego group should be sworn in or be given a certificate of return. It wasn't stated in that, and you do not pray. Get an answer for a prayer you did not pray to the court.
Let me help you out. It is important to refer you to the order granted by the Federal High Court, and in particular, order number 5. I must have to read this because it's very clear. Order number 5 was very clear to say an order of perpetual injunction restraining the first defendants, its agents, servants, privies, assigns, officials, whatsoever name they may be called, from forwarding, sending, or submitting to the second defendant any delegates list or nominated candidates that may emerge from the congresses or primaries conducted by the purported caretaker committee or whatever name you may call it, set up by the defendant for the People's Democratic Party, Anambra State, chapter, except those that emanated from the plaintiffs' congresses and primaries election. That is order number 5. And that is what everybody needs to get back to. The Supreme Court says they agree with this, and they are setting aside the Court of Appeal, and that is what is on the ground now.
No, because the Supreme Court has said that it will not review its judgment. In any case, it will not grant the prayers of INEC when it went back to when INEC went back to the Supreme Court in January 2016, asking the Supreme Court to reinterpret what the judgment really means, either for your group to be allowed to get the certificate of return or for the Senator Stella Odua group to retain their seat. But that was not given. Don't you think that it's somewhat that silence means that? Don't think that the silence. Hold on. Don't think that silence speaks volume.
No, it doesn't. Because when our names were published and they went to a court of appeal only said that Ejiko Ogwebego is not the chairman, that they are not going to recognize him. They never gave them a consequential order that says to remove our name. There is no order in any court of law in this country that says remove the names of these people. INEC went ahead and said they are going to obey the judgment of the court. We objected. They say go to Supreme Court. That order, without a consequential order, which INEC obeyed, the Supreme Court has now set it aside. Why are you now saying that it has to be categorically clear?
It needs to be
that
clear.
We have to be mentioned by name.
Of course.
When they removed our name, when INEC removed our name, we were not mentioned.
It needs to be clear. If the court says something, it will clearly say shall, must, and will. But if it doesn't say it, and it's not clearly stated in the judgment, it doesn't mean it. When the court gave its order, Justice Tussle gave his order on INEC here, it's clearly stated what he wants what he wants INEC to do.
This is part of what the Supreme Court said during the interpretation, the failed interpretation bid which INEC went for. In part, it says, when the Federal High Court gave the order for this group to be recognized and their names published, INEC obeyed. They didn't ask for interpretation. When this judgment was appealed, INEC obeyed. They didn't ask for interpretation. Why now would INEC ask for interpretation when what the Supreme Court only said is that the decision of the Court of Appeal has been set aside? It said that if INEC is looking for the order to obey, they should go down to the order of the Federal High Court, which has now been which they are now upholding. There is no ambiguity. You can't expect any more from the Supreme Court. They cannot be any more clearer than this. They are asking INEC to obey the order of the Federal High Court, which they are now upholding. Okay,
let me quickly ask you the implications of what has the Justice Tussle ruling or order here from the Federal High Court in Abuja, stating that unless you obey the directions contained in the order of the Honorable Court attached in that judgment, and he's saying that you will be guilty of contempt of court and you will be liable to be committed to prison, referring to INEC there. And take further notice, it says that if the Independent National Electoral Commission continues to disobey this order, you, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, will be held in contempt of court and liable to imprisonment. So again, it's not asking your group for you to get the certificate of return. That's another thing that is not clearly stated here.
Sego, as you know, you have to take it for what it is. I'm not going to speak on that, on this particular issue that you raised now. It is a matter that is before the court. For me to speak on that will be sub judice, and I hope you can understand that. But this has to be followed to its logical conclusion.
So, but for your group, what is the implication of this judgment? Ms. Sophia, what's the implication of this or this court order? What's the implication of this court order for your group? All right, we take it.
The only thing I can speak about is for INEC to obey the judgment of the Federal High Court, which the Supreme Court upheld. The implications is that INEC has to obey the judgment which they have up till now not obeyed.
All right, we take a moment. And when we return, we'll be speaking with INEC on this matter. And joining us on the program is one of the spokespersons of the commission. Stay with us. We'll be right back.